Hello everyone, this is Philosophy 72 and this is week 3, right? So we did Descartes, we started with Descartes on week 1 and then Leibniz last week and today, right, for this week we are doing Spinoza. Remember that the theme of the course is the self, the other, and the world. We saw the establishing of right the centrality of the self by Descartes, right? Remember the I think, therefore I am, right? The cogito, and then with Leibniz we saw the notion of the individual substance, and then we spoke about things such as contingency, necessity, right? So with Spinoza, we see the beginning of a kind of a deconstruction, okay, of that idea of the self as central. I mean, in Spinoza, we see that, for example, the outset of part 3 of the Ethics, we are reading sections from this book, basically, right? The Ethics. And he criticizes at the beginning of section 3 the idea that the individual is a kingdom within a kingdom, right? I mean, meaning that we are free to do as we please, right? I mean, in reality, very often for Spinoza, so I will just highlight a few points. We are determined to do what we do because of conditioned by our emotions, right? So emotions become very important now with Spinoza. That wasn't the case before with Descartes, Leibniz, and it will be the same with the next philosopher that we're doing next week, Nietzsche. Okay, so in any case, what I ask you to do is read just a few pages from this, difficult book. Okay, so read the appendix to part 1, right, page 238 to page 243, the beginning of part 3, to which I already made a reference, right, about the kingdom within a kingdom, right, about the emotions. And then also, again, in part 4, so you have the preface to part 4, page 320, 322, which is on human bondage, right? Servitude vis-a-vis precisely the emotions, right? The strength of the emotions, right? That's the way the that's the title of part 4, okay, of the Ethics. And so I say pay particular attention to this. Again, these pages, you see that in the syllabus, okay? And then the journal entry suggestion is precisely about this. I say after Descartes' dualism, the two substances, Leibniz, many substances, individual substances, we have now in Spinoza, this is something I'm saying, something new I'm saying today, one substance. Okay, so as you read Spinoza, even before the pages that I asked you to focus on, you see that Spinoza says that we have one substance only. Part 1 of the Ethics is called Concerning God. Okay, so pay attention to this. For Spinoza, God is the substance, the one substance, but God is nature. Nature is God. Okay, so you will find that also in part 4. Okay, this is very important, meaning that there is no, like, that was the case, of course, with Descartes, Leibniz, right? There is no God outside of, right? I mean, there is no separation between God and then what God creates, because there is no creation in Spinoza, but there is this unfolding of this production, right, of the substance itself. Again, I hope that this is clear. One substance, this substance is God, and God is also nature. Nature is God. This substance is absolutely infinite, so there is nothing outside nature. There is no supernatural dimension for Spinoza. Okay, keep this in mind. This is very important. So say what you think about this, right? And then I say also Spinoza takes issues, as I mentioned already before, with the idea that the human being is free and sovereign. Sovereign meaning that I do as I please, that I decide freely, and whatever that I do whatever I want. But this is not the case, right? This independence and sovereignty is fictional. Okay, so precisely what's this idea that the human being would be, and Spinoza takes issue with this, a kingdom within a kingdom, right? Think about that. And so, what do you think of this, right? Instead, Spinoza stresses the idea of determination, right? I mean, determination, right? Precisely that we are very often compelled to do something, we are forced to do something by precisely again the emotions, right? So think about that. I mean, what do you think? I mean, are we free when we act? What is this freedom, or are we again determined in that way that we are forced, right, in many ways, in important ways, by the emotions? An example, say fear. The emotion, one of the most there are many important emotions, but fear, how many times people act out of a fear, right? And they do maybe the wrong thing, right? Because again, it's not that I really choose freely, but maybe I do something because I am afraid of whatever, or I may act out of any other emotion, anger, hate, as we have been seeing lately, all this hatred around, right? I mean, with the explosion also of, right, this lately, this racist, right, situations that have always been there, but today that's, really becoming really visible. And so, I mean, people act very often out of fear for the other, for example, or hatred, but even out of love. Right? I mean, we do something because, for example, we love. So, and there too, I mean, we may at times make mistakes and so on. Okay. So in any case, read these sections, especially again, the appendix, page 238, 243, there is a wonderful illustration example that you will also read, in which Spinoza takes issue with the idea that things are, that there is a kind of a predestination, that things happen because they are meant to happen that way. And there is also in that section this correction of a usual mistake, a typical mistake that we make according to Spinoza, whereby we confuse the cause for the effect for the cause. So you will see that wonderful example of the man, a person, right, being hit by a stone that falls from the roof top of a building and die, right? I mean, many people will say that it's not that the man dies because the stone fell, but that the stone fell because the person was supposed to die, right? So this is like confusing the cause and the effect, so that's very important. And then as you move on, again, read page 277 to page 279 at the beginning of part 3. I call attention to that already, and page 320, 322, where you will see again this question of, perfection, how perfection is reality. Reality is perfection, how values that we use, right? I mean, when we say that something is good or bad, and so on and so forth, beautiful or ugly, and so on and so forth, Spinoza says that these are all relative terms, right? I mean, and not absolute. That again, things in themselves are what they are. This is similar to what Leibniz said, right? But the idea that we see in Spinoza is that perfection is itself relative. It depends on the intention that we have. Right? Let's say the example that you will find. In that section, right? I mean, a house that seems to be unfinished, is that imperfect? No, if that was the intention of the maker, the builder of the house, right? If I decide to leave a house, right, unfinished, what seems to be unfinished, right? Because, say, it's an aesthetic touch, whatever it is, then the house is actually completed because perfection is completion. Maybe it looks unfinished only to me because I am already applying a preconceived idea of what the finished house should be, right? So, but and very often this is what happens. We apply to situations, to events, to people, even preconceived ideas or ideals, right? And very often we make a mistake when we say, for example, this something, a person or right, a form of whatever behavior and so on is wrong, is, say, to use sociological, psychological language, deviant, abnormal, and so on and so forth. This is very close to what Leibniz, in a sense, also said. But this is a mistake that we make because, again, we are maybe not used to seeing something. Something is, beyond our expectation. Maybe we don't understand it, right? And we say that it is wrong, that it is imperfect, that it is irregular, that it is a defect, for example, of nature. But as Spinoza says, there is no defect in nature, right? Again, reality is perfection, perfection is reality, okay? So think about that and try to write something about these issues in Spinoza, especially the question of the emotions, how the emotions, how he says, at the beginning of part 4, precisely we had to learn how to manage the emotions, how to master, control the emotions, because otherwise we can ultimately be destroyed by the emotions because emotions are very strong. Okay, so well, think about this. There would be much more to say, but I think that this gives you a sense of direction that will be enough for you if you read the highlighted sections that I called attention to. Don't worry about the rest of the book, it's very difficult, right? So, but focus on this with these things that I have said in mind. And write your assignments, okay? And so uh, then next time we will speak about the next philosopher, Nietzsche. Okay, thank you. Bye.